So, accidentally, Vivek Manige was one of them who used to rent time from me that time. I remember Madhusudan Gaikewari used to do it. So, these guys used to stay overnight, they used to and work, and they used to pay something like 100 or 200. I think it was 60 in the end. It started at 130 rupees an hour. And that's how I recovered. I was able to repay my loan, and I just about started breaking even. So that's how I started.
And I think there was this aspect of give and take that kind of worked a lot. You said friends came in.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be a little pragmatic there. So what Vinay you're referring to is my people whom I knew in Alpha Lava, they didn't just give me the contract for doing data entry, which lasted for 5 years. It provided steady flow of income just by that. There was a bit of a give and take there. I did a favor, which was a fair favor. I mean, it was not something like a kickback, but there was a favor for favor kind of thing. So, all throughout my life, I tell you, but for friends like these, I would have been nowhere. So, it helped me a lot. I mean, this data entry contract lasted for 5 years. So, even after we broke even after that, it went on and on and on. So, that really helped me. In fact, I didn't feel that I was out of job. After leaving Alpha Lava, the data entry contract used to get me more than my salary in Alpha Lava. So, it was like practically I was continuing to work and earn and continuing to have my job as so that those things really help. But but for these friends, I don't think I would have been where I am today.
And so just as you were stepping into these different things, I think there is one you mentioned briefly about you were among the first three or recruitment agencies as we know them right now.
Right.
So I guess one contribution is the metric that we live by in terms of how much we pay a recruiter was probably fixed in that time.
Yeah, I mean we started with 5 rupees per address, then we realized it's too less, then we increased it to 15 rupees. And candidates complained that and we used to take money from the candidates because we both sides. So we used to sell the addresses to the companies and charge the candidates registration fee or whatever you call. So they started complaining that it's too much and all that. So we stopped taking money from the candidates. Then this 5 rupees per address started, falling too short. They increased it. Then it became 25% of CTC, monthly CTC. Then finally it is 8.33% of annual CTC, which is the norm now. But we arrived at it after a lot of experimentation back and forth. So before us, people used to survive, all the agencies used to survive mainly on the income they made from the candidate by charging the candidates. But we changed that model and we started charging the companies, and that's the model which has stuck on even today.
It's interesting. A business starts and a business model actually takes an entire
yeah, you're always in search of a business model, so you have to keep experimenting, and there was no choice. I mean, if you don't have money to keep the lights on, what do? You have to find ways of making money.
Fabulous. So as this whole recruitment business kicked off, right? And one of the key things I believe you arrived at was this mantra of never ignore a customer.
Yeah. So opportunity comes knocking. It's only that we don't recognize it. I must have met quite a few opportunities over TiE, right? And I might have ignored some of them. So opportunity comes disguised in a way that you don't recognize it, and this is one of the things that I learned the hard way. So the story goes like this. It's an anecdote. So this happened. Madhusudan Gaikewari, who was my IIT senior, he said that he has his friend who is in need of recruiting some people for their US entity. So I said, fine, you bring him over. So he brought his friend over, and those days, a little bit of background, we just recently in those days we have had cases where some of our candidates were not treated well, someone misbehaved with them. So we are very careful where we are deputing our candidates. So then this gentleman came along with Madhu, and he had, he was very unimpressive. He had, a shirt out, chalk on hands, looked like a primary school teacher with a little bit of squint in his eye. I said, my wife was there, so she said, look, before we send guys or resumes to this guy, you better check out his office, what it is like. And we still had those printouts, and I kept those resumes in my bag, and I said, okay, let me visit this office, and if I find the office all right, then only I will part with these resumes, otherwise. So I went and knocked on the door, and actually when I looked at the door, the nameplate was there, and above that, those days there used to be this VIP bags used to have those alphabets, like those stickers. So the name of the company was written in those alphabets on the stickers above the nameplate. I was about to go back, but I said, okay, let me open. And I knocked and I rang the bell. His wife opened the door. She was cooking that time. So I asked the assistant. So she said, no, he is not there. He's in the US. You want something? I was about to hand over the folder of resumes to her. But then I changed my mind and I said, no, alright, just tell him that I come and left my business card and walked out. That was the biggest mistake of my life. I'm kicking myself for that even today. Right? The opportunity was right there. The nameplate was of none other than N.R. Narayan Murthy. And the alphabets that you saw were Infosys. Right? And so, lesson learned very, very hard way, right? I mean, opportunity was there, and I decided against it, right? And I walked out, and I thought I was doing the wise thing. So please remember, I mean, anyone don't go by the looks or what it feels like at that given point of time, and that's something which actually I learned it many times over. The same thing happened many times over in my life that when the customer started, it looked like a really, really small customer. And this company was just 2 people, and it, this is a recent story, 2010. And we were like, why are we doing this? They are not paying in time, and, But we say, okay, let's do it since we don't have any other place where we can employ these billable resources. So we continued working for this customer, and they did a wonderful job, and this company got acquired by Google. And now today Google is my customer. But if we had given up that time that these guys are not paying and applied the standard rules of business instead of gut feel, probably would have walked away from that opportunity also.
So, and on that note, before we probably jump into the Synerzip part of the story or getting into his current venture and the story from this point on, probably I'll open it up for a few questions from the audience. If there's something that you want to get addressed on the initial part of Vinayak's journey, that's something that we can take up right away. Otherwise, of course, we can jump. If you could just tell your name.
Yeah, my name is Anish. You mentioned a very interesting thing about Narayan Murthy. I think a lot of times we go by gut feel that we have, and then you mentioned about balancing gut feel with business standards process. How to strike that balance?
Yeah, good question. So, they're on the side of gut feel. Okay, I mean, logic is something which will tell you otherwise. Many times, to start with whether to start this business or not, itself, if you think logically, most of the businesses fail. So why the hell should you start that business? Any logic will convince anybody that you should not be doing business, right? Because most of the business ideas fail. And if it is innovative, definitely not. Because most of the innovations, 90% of the innovations fail. So if you just go by logic, it's not going to work. So gut feel is something that I would always err on the side of gut feel.
Okay, thank you.
It's always easier to connect the dots if we look backwards, right? And as entrepreneurs, we do come across many opportunities